Words are precious conveyors of reality. They not only shape the way that we think, but they determine our choices and our actions. And they shape the kind of cultures that we live in. If you want to change society, you begin by changing language. Our adversary knows this all too well. In recent decades, a strategic redefining of many critical words has led to dramatic cultural changes for the worse. People have absorbed these false redefinitions uncritically, including many Christians. And in doing so, they've become unwitting agents in advancing non-Christian systems of belief that are tearing our nation apart. This is a disaster for the church and for the society. To turn things around, we have to recover the true definitions of at least 10 critical words.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Ideas Have Consequences. My name's Luke, and I am joined today by Dwight Vogt and Scott Allen, author of 10 Words to Heal Our Broken World, Restoring the True Meanings of Our Most Important Words. Guys, today is a big day. The book is out. It is out on Amazon. It is out on Goodreads, and you can go get your copy today. We have been building up to this for, well, feels like a long time, guys, the whole year pretty much, and today's the big day. So congratulations, Dad, on this big day.
Thanks, Luke. I mean, obviously not just the work of a single person. This has been a team effort, so thank you guys and the rest of the DNA team, and now even many people that have been reading and reviewing and just helping to refine it. So super grateful that we finally got here.
Yep.
Yeah,
awesome.
you say finally because I what was it, 2016 or 2017? I remember going across town and meeting with a group of people to discuss this project, this book.
Yeah.
And you talk about a long gestation period.
No kidding.
It's been like 7 years now, but wow. Congratulations,
We're here.
Scott.
We're finally here.
We
It's awesome.
finally made it. Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who have been listeners of Ideas Have Consequences for a while, you will be quite aware of this book by now, and you understand that words, and especially their biblical definitions, are incredibly important for Christians to uphold, defend, and to share with our world, in a world where words and definitions are constantly changing, as you heard during the intro to this episode. But if you're new to the show, you're probably wondering what I was wondering when I first heard the title of this book, 10 Words to Heal Our Broken World. You're probably wondering, how do words heal a broken world? Great question. Why don't we just start there and jump into the importance of words and our mission. We are the Disciple Nations Alliance. That is the ministry behind this podcast, Ideas Have Consequences. And words have an important part to play in discipling nations. So, Dad, just to get us rolling today, why words? Why do words heal a broken world?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the right question, the big question. And, words, it's funny, we use them all the time, every day. We're using them right now. We take language for granted, but we shouldn't, because it's a gift from God. And He uses words and language. He communicates to us. He communicates to us through the Bible, through the Scriptures. He actually inscribed the 10 Commandments with His finger. So He's a speaking God. He's a God who used His word to create the universe. And we use, as His image bearers, we use words to create culture. Words are conveyors of reality, or they ought to be anyways, true definitions, true words. They create ideas, and those are the basic building blocks, not just of our lives, but our entire culture. And, there's been a lot of talk about, how do we, if we really want to see change in our culture, if we want to see it moving in the direction of being more aligned with the Scriptures and God's kingdom, how do we do that? Do we plant churches? Do evangelism? Do we change laws? All of these things can be important for sure. But I would argue that the most basic and really the most important thing that we can do is know the true biblical definition of these really important 10 biblical words, not necessarily just these 10, but these are 10 really important ones. We have to know the true definitions because that's the foundation. Those are the basic building blocks that we build our lives on in our culture. they're under attack. They're being redefined. They've been redefined, often in the dictionary. And if we're not aware of that fact, that people that are not Christians, that are pushing alternative religions and ideologies, are redefining these words, if we're not aware of that, we can easily just go along with that redefinition. It just kind of washes over us in our systems of education, media, what we read, films. I mean, we'll just absorb these false redefinitions. So we have to be really alert to the fact that these words, I could just ramble on and on, but again, these words are defined by God, and I know that sounds basic, but I think a lot of Christians don't quite get that either. These words come to us from God through His Scripture. We are not free to redefine them. God exists. He's real. He's present right here today, and He has given us these basic building blocks for us to build free, flourishing lives and nations, and that's our job, is to know them. And not just to defend them, but to build our lives on them. And that's the idea behind the book. Luke, honestly, at the end of the day, it's just to help Christians build cultures on the basis of truth, the true definition of these words. And when I say cultures, I'm not talking about cultures just in a macro way. I'm talking about your own family, so.
Dwight, how would you summarize why words have the power to heal a broken world?
Scott, I was going back to that intro that we just heard at the beginning of the show, and you used the word precious. Words are precious conveyors of reality.
Yeah, really precious, like diamonds,
we use the word truth, biblical truth, but these aren't just for Christians, they're for everyone, because they are precious conveyors of reality. And the reality is, when we move away from reality, whether it's gravity or fire, and don't understand how that works, what's real about that, we will hurt ourselves, and we will destroy ourselves ultimately.
Well said, Dwight.
Precious conveyors of reality, and if we don't live by reality, we're in trouble.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. If you guys could see me, I know this is audio only, but I'm holding up the book, a book that you can go and get today on Amazon or Goodreads or wherever you get books. I'm just flipping through right here at the beginning of the book. There's a couple quotes. I love this one. Well, this is a Bible verse, but Psalm 12:6 says, "The words of the Lord are flawless, like silver purified in a crucible, like gold refined 7 times." These are precious words.
And let me just pause you out there quickly, Luke. That verse stood out to me because it doesn't use David or the writer of that psalm is using the word words, plural. Mm-hmm. We often think that the Word of God, singular, God, the Bible, the Scriptures, is flawless. We are all familiar with that. But I love this verse because it talks about the individual words, the words themselves. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, that is powerful. Right above that verse, you have this quote from Confucius, of all people, who I think very wisely put it this way. "In restoring a society in collapse, the first priority is to restore the proper meanings of words." That quote is somewhat of an inspiration behind the title of the book, but he got it right. The way you use your words is going to define the culture that you live in. As you guys know, if you listen to this podcast, like it or not, call it what you want, we do live in a culture war today in the U.S. and in many nations around the world. I said this last week on the podcast, but at the very essence of this culture war is a battle over the meanings of a few culture-building words. The 10 words that we have here in the book are some of those words. There are more, obviously, as well, but these are really pillars of a culture, these words. Just for myself, it's really helpful to think of a couple ways that these words are being redefined. A couple phrases come to mind, phrases like love is love, reproductive freedom, social justice, or just the word truth. And here in the U.S., we're coming out of a very hotly contested election, and that word truth was being tossed around all over the place, and it essentially felt like it could mean whatever people wanted it to mean. But each one of those phrases, reproductive freedom especially, really boils my blood because they're just destroying that word freedom as they're trying to reproductive freedom is essentially abortion. It is abortion. And yet they're saying that is your freedom, that is your human right to kill someone else, which it's not. So they're just diminishing that very true and beautiful word that is freedom. So these words matter, and they are being redefined. They are being twisted. I'm sure you guys listening to this can think of other ways that these words are being redefined, but that's just an example of how this is happening in real time. Dad, just to sum up this section of why words matter, do you have any more thoughts on this before we move on?
No, I think you give a good example there on the word freedom. It's being used in our culture, in a really significant way to mean the freedom to do whatever you want, even and up to killing someone else. And when freedom is defined as that, in that way, that's a complete bastardization of what God defines freedom as. It's a complete upside-down redefinition. And yet lots of people have bought into that. That's the way they use the word. That's the way they understand the word. It will, as Dwight said earlier, it'll destroy us and it'll destroy society if we don't understand what true freedom is from the Bible. And that word is a foundational word in the Scriptures. Honestly, the Christians, we get our faith from the Jews. Our faith is built on the basis of the Jewish Scriptures. And if you ask Jewish people even today, what's the foundation of their belief system, they'll go back to Exodus and Moses. And that's a narrative of freedom, of liberation from slavery. So freedom is just so deep in our worldview, but boy, it has to be understood rightly. And it's a good example of that cultural redefinition will just wash over us, and that'll shape the way we think of freedom. So if we're going to turn the cultural moment around, and we are in a kind of a crisis right now, we really are, in a really, really important cultural moment. It's kind of up to the church here, the people of the Word, to go back to these words and understand them deeply and build our lives on them again. Yep.
Yeah. That's what this book does. It takes these words like freedom and it lines it up with the biblical definition and then the false redefinition in each chapter. And you can really pick up this book and go to any of the 10 words you want. One that you're really curious about. For me, when I first picked it up, I went to the word faith, and I was curious, how is faith being redefined? And, we'd recommend reading it cover to cover, but if you want, you can just hop in and it's an easy book to just read section by section, word by word, as you want. So
and by the way, Luke, I would just to interrupt, I would recommend that. I would, it's a bit of a lengthy book. I tried not to make it, it's not academic. It's written for everyday Christians, but it's still, it's pretty hefty. So start with whatever word you're most interested in. Read that chapter, and then see how it benefits you, and then move on from there. That's probably a good way to read the book. Yeah,
I'd start with the intro, and then
read the intro, please.
Read
I agree. Because the
intro,
it just lays out why I felt a lot of what we're talking about now, why this is such an important book.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the
Scott,
intro is great.
I know you want to build awareness and just clear understanding of these words, but what do you want people to do with it then? I mean, do you want us to walk around using the word and redefining it as we talk, or what's the end here?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, I want to strengthen and fortify the church, the people of God, in this moment. We have to be a counterculture. To a culture that's rapidly falling apart because it's cut itself off from its biblical roots. We have to be a counterculture. We have to live in a way that's genuinely Christian, that's genuinely, authentically Christian. And you can't do that. It's just not possible unless Christians know the true biblical definition of these 10 words. And then it's not just knowledge, it's you, and I end each chapter, each word chapter, I end with, what does this mean for you? Like, for example, on the chapter of truth, we lay out the biblical definition. We show how in our postmodern times it's been redefined in this very subjective way. But then I come back to it and I make it very personal. What does this mean for you? Are you a person who upholds the truth? Are you honest? Every day, do you seek every morning to get up and make a commitment to not lie, to be honest, to be a person of integrity? So we have to, this is how we honor God. This is, we have to commit to living in this countercultural way. And in a time where, there's just lies and narratives and spin, we're not going to do that. We're going to be people of integrity, of honesty, of truthfulness. And that's just one word. That word alone, just one word, will make a huge difference in your life. Now, times 10. I would actually recommend this book, and I just think this would be a great book for any homeschool, public school, Christian school, any kind of school, because it's in some ways, it's a basic biblical discipleship book. Mm-hmm. But it's discipleship for rebuilding a Christian culture. I mean, we are the Disciple Nations Alliance, and that's what we want to see. We want to see nations discipled, mm-hmm. flourishing, free, just, etc. This is how you get there. This is our argument. It's not by just planting more churches and or changing laws. All of those are important. It's really by just going back to these basic building blocks again and starting with us. So this is something we all can do. This is very personal.
Right. Yeah. And that flows into my next question, which was, who was this book written for? But before I get to that, just wanted to remind you guys, if you want to get this book, 10 Words to Heal Our Broken World, just head over to Amazon or wherever you buy books. Search it, and shakalakaloo, it'll pop up right away. It's a nice red book. You'll see it hopefully right at the top of your page. Cover looks awesome, in my humble opinion, and you can click on it. You can read a couple of the endorsements, and $17, Dad, not bad. And
that's for the paperback. It's also available as a Kindle book for a lot less. And then we'll have an audiobook coming out in about a month, so that it'll be available as an audiobook. Maybe, in fact, we could just touch on some of the other resources, because it's not just a book.
Yeah.
This is, for us at the Disciple Nations Alliance, we worked for 6 years on this because we as a team felt like this is really important. This is really basic to our mission to help the church to disciple nations, especially in this critical cultural moment. So we put a lot into this. Go ahead, Luke, maybe, or Dwight, and just talk a little bit about some of those resources.
Sure, yeah. If you guys have been listening to Ideas Have Consequences, you know that we have we're not done yet, but we almost concluded a 10-part series here on this show, covering each word. So if you have friends that like podcasts, that's an easy way to introduce them to the book, is just share one of your favorite episodes with them. We have an intro episode that came out about 2 months ago now. That's a good way to, if you have a conversation with someone at a coffee shop, they sound interested in the book, just shoot them one of these episodes, and they can get a better idea of this book, why words matter, like we're talking about today, or this episode. If you guys want to take a group through this book and really dive into the content, this is such a good, like you were saying, Dad, this is a great discipleship tool. It can be a great apologetic tool, just understanding Jesus in a more deep way and being able to defend him when we're out in the public square, because we understand the definitions that he's given us. There is it's a Bible study course, or it's a
group study.
Yeah, it's
group study guide course.
Based around videos too.
I just want to jump on
Go
that.
Go ahead, Luke or Dwight.
Yeah. We're just convinced that's also very, very, very helpful. Mm-hmm. Anytime you get into an interactive discussion with friends, you will learn from them, whether it's football, whether it's politics. We had this great discussion over lunch with just us three of us, and I came away from learning things and thinking more deeply about some things.
And
that's what's going to happen when you go through this study guide. I think it's going to be really helpful in asking not hard questions, good questions.
And if I could put a plug in for the Bible study, the Bible study is a standalone study, and so you actually don't need to read the book. It's recommended that you do, but if you want to just take a group of people through the study, you can do that without reading the book. So just keep that in mind. And what I do in the study is, for each of the 10 words, I just go through the scriptures, probably 10 to 15 scriptures in the Bible that help to define the word itself. So people are just, they can think from the scriptures themselves and just be just go right to the Bible. It's quite powerful in that way. Yeah. Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the main parts of the course, or the study guide, I gotta say,
Bible
right?
study.
Bible study
course,
guide
yeah. Mm-hmm.
is the videos that they're based around. Each one of them
Yes.
has a really engaging, about 10-minute video that just does an in-depth kind of summary of the chapter, starting out with the true definition, talking about the culture that definition will create, then transitioning to the false definition, the one that we often see around us in our cultures, talking about the culture that creates, which is very easy because we all see that around us, and then just swings back at the end to summarizing which culture do you want to live in, which culture do you want to create around you, and kind of leaves you with that question, and obviously encourages you towards the true meaning of the words culture, but it's very obvious. The cultures that these 10 words create, when biblically defined, are beautiful. They produce human flourishing, and they promote beauty, truth, and goodness. And any alternate definition to these words is ultimately just going to destroy, and we see that often around us. So those videos, in a really compelling way, because it's visual, is giving you visual examples of what's happening in our world today as these words are deteriorating. So those videos were really helpful for me. I'm not a big book reader myself, so I highly recommend the study guide for anyone like me. But I'm going to read the book. I'm going to put in the work. I'm
just a shout out to our friend Jeff Krieger, who produced the videos, filmed and produced the videos. We put a lot into these videos. They're highly produced. There's a lot of graphics. They're not just me talking. They're compelling, I think. They're short. You could, and so the Bible study, each chapter is built around that video that you would watch together, read the Bible verses. But the videos are also something that we're posting up on our 10wordsbook.org website. I always 10wordsbook.org website. And those are videos you can just watch. You don't even have to go through the study. You can just watch them, and if you like them, you could share them. I would love that. If you feel like, oh, this is a really powerful video, just share it with people on your social media, and we can help get the word out in that way as well.
Yeah, that's right. 10wordsbook.org is where you can find all things 10 Words to Heal Our Broken World, including a link to buy the book, including the study guide, including the podcast series, and then just a further look into the book itself with some endorsements in the intro. So if you're new and you want to learn more about this book before going and getting your copy, just head over to 10wordsbook.org. Dad, who were you thinking of when you wrote this book? Who do you think is the audience that's going to be the most blessed by this? I know it's very broad, but I mostly wrote this, Luke, for it's a very broad audience, but it's your everyday Christian in the pews, in the church, in the workplace. This is not a book for academics. I know it can sound that way because, words and definitions. It sounds kind of academic. It's not. And I just really want people to kind of absorb that idea that we use words all the time. Everybody does. And so it's incumbent on us as Christians to know that everyone needs to know the true definition. And because we use them and we build our lives on them. So this is for everyday Christians. Because we're in such a crisis in the West, I would say it's largely written for Western Christians, United States, Canada, Australia, English-speaking world, but it's super relevant for anyone, even in Latin America. So the book is in process of coming out in Spanish already, but so it's not just limited to people in the West. One other quick thing I would say too on the book, Luke. The book's going to be out today, and I just want to encourage people as you read it, as you get it and read it, please do. I would be deeply honored, to write reviews as well. Amazon reviews help us so much. Here's why. If we can get some Amazon reviews up relatively quickly, what Amazon does is then they move this book up higher in their algorithms, and it just helps other people to get exposed to the book. So I would just want to really encourage people, if I could put a quick plug in for that as well, to write a review. One of the best ways that we can share this book further and that you can help us do that, and literally only takes 30 seconds, just hop on Amazon, leave a review. If you haven't read the book yet, you can even just say excited to read the book. And especially today, November 19th, and throughout the rest of this week, as many reviews as we can get as possible, we can just share this book with more people. So we'd really appreciate that from you guys, especially you guys who listen to this podcast regularly. This will only take you about a minute. And again, it's a really great way for us to share the book.
It makes a huge difference, more than you realize, yeah.
Yep, exactly. All right, yeah, and I would just personally put in, I'm in my mid-20s. I have a large handful of friends reading through this book right now. They were on the launch team, so they already have the book. And they really enjoy it. And I would just encourage you to share this with the younger people in your life, teens, 20s. During these years, we are really getting out there from, the protection and safety of home into the culture and the kind of crazy culture that we live in nowadays as you head to university or throughout your 20s in the workspace. You're going to be bombarded by false definitions of these words, and if you don't truly know these true definitions of the words, you'll just get swept up in the wave of culture. I know I did. I know my definitions of words like beauty, authority, even freedom, they were not well grounded, I would say, grounded enough as I headed off to university, and I just kind of slowly absorbed more of the wrong definitions than I would have liked. So this book would have been a really useful resource for me in those years. Luckily, I have it now, and I feel a lot more confident when talking about my faith and when interacting with just people out there in culture, and understanding and being grounded on these definitions is really helpful. It's just a helpful tool in my tool belt as I walk out there in the world. This book is excellent for people in their formative years, and a really helpful resource. So
really tried to make it applicable, something that you could apply. So change your thinking. I challenge everyone, like if you've had a wrong understanding of this word, even to some degree, change your thinking, put on the right understanding. It's from God, it's biblical. And then I tried to make it super practical. Begin to walk that out in just your daily life, in your work, with your children. Walk that out. This is actually how we disciple nations. And so this is a book, this is a handbook for discipling nations. Really it is. It doesn't leave you like, oh, hopeless. Oh, man, these words have been redefined. Everything's doom and gloom. No, this is all about... we can make a difference by putting back on the true definitions, and we can stand for these, and build our lives on them and defend them when we need to in the public square. Dwight, I know you had some thoughts on the book and just how you think about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, my one thought here is, as I listen to you guys talk, I'm thinking, well, how have I benefited? Because I've grown up with Scott and Daryl Miller. We've always thought about words. But I think the process of helping you think through the book, Scott, which we've all done as a team here in the last few years, has helped me really develop a much deeper appreciation for words in general. I mean, here we tend to think theological words are the ones we really need to know, but we need to understand culture. We need to understand the words that build our culture. And it's not just that's the word and I know it, but I find myself looking deep into other words that aren't in this list now. And it's really enriching just to have a real deep appreciation for words in general.
Yeah, if it does nothing else but just kind of enlighten people to the power of words so that they can take that more seriously, that's a success. Yeah, Dwight, good, well said.
Yeah, I could give personal testimony after personal testimony as well of these words. For me, it started with beauty, and I like to think of myself as a, kind of artist type person, and the word beauty was always kind of a fun extra thing that I enjoyed as a, not core to who I am, because core to who I am is a follower of Jesus, and then there's the pursuit of art over here. And that was just a really wrong way of looking at beauty. Beauty it's really, truth, goodness, and beauty, the three transcendentals, it's core to who God is. God is beautiful. And nothing is beautiful that isn't originated in God. So just grounding that love, that passion I have back into my faith really gave me a fresher and fuller understanding of beauty. And now I have a much deeper appreciation of art. And I feel a lot more free to pursue, the pursuit of art as not a distraction from my faith, but as an integral part to it. I'm also newly married, so learning a real, true biblical definition of words like marriage, words like human, love, and then sex are all very practical. As I'm surrounded by a lot of other young married couples, it's just helpful to know these words and to share them with my friends. And yeah.
One of the things that surprised me as I was writing the book, you reminded me when you talked about beauty and how beauty is sourced in God, and there is no separation between beauty and God. And when you really understand beauty, it draws you closer to God. And that was my experience in writing literally the chapters of every one of these words, is that they have their source in God. And so I found myself just my relationship with God growing, deeper. And so it was such a delight for me, just to see how God is so much the source and the foundation and the bedrock of every one of these 10 words. And so I think one of the benefits of reading the book is it's gonna strengthen your relationship to God. God will become much more important. You'll love Him more, I'm convinced, after reading this book. So,
yep. Last question, Dad. I love the way that you laid out each one of these chapters. We've kind of touched on that already, but you use the exact same layout for every chapter.
Format.
Which for me, as a kind of an organized person, format is really satisfying. So would you just walk people through that and just give them a little idea of what to expect as they open up the book for the first time?
You bet. Yeah, thanks, Luke. I kind of operated off of the principle of original and counterfeit. Somebody once told me that when it comes to currency, dollar bills or whatever, if you want to spot a counterfeit, you have to really study the original so you can see the differences. You have to know that original to spot the differences. And so I used that basic idea when I approached each of the 10 words. And so I start each chapter with a kind of a somewhat in-depth look at the original. What does this word mean if we start from the Scriptures? Because this is how God has defined the word for us in His Word. And so we look at that in some detail. I do give a concise biblical definition for each of these words, but then we unpack it in some detail so that you have in your mind right away at the front what the Bible reveals about the truth of the word. Then I go to the counterfeit and I say, how is it understood in the culture? And I give some quotes and, from my own experience and my own reading, how are we understanding this word today in our largely secularized post-Christian culture? So you can compare and contrast, and I think that's really helpful. And then the third part of each chapter is the call to, change your mind. How much have you, so I challenge everyone, how much have you absorbed that false kind of counterfeit definition that I just talked about? How much do you need to change to recover the biblical one? So it's kind of an examination of your own thinking. It starts with that, and then the call to action. So go ahead. I use the word repent in the sense of the Greek word for repent is metanoia, which literally means change your mind, like change your thinking about that word, and then build. This is such the key part of it, is build your life on that. There's certain things you can do tomorrow to start building your life on the true definition. So that's the basic outline, that I follow for every chapter, every word.
Yep. Really easy application. I appreciate that. Speaking of application, guys, we never give you guys homework here on the podcast, but again, we do have an assignment today, and that's to go hop on Amazon and leave this book a quick review. I've left 2 links in the show notes today. One of those goes to 10wordsbook.org, where you can learn all things 10 Words Book, and the other one's just straight to Amazon. If you want to go get your copy right now, you can just click that link in the show notes, head over to Amazon, grab your copy today, and then, of course, leave us a review, or leave the book a review. So we'd really appreciate...
And share this with your friends. I mean, to the degree that you find it helpful or useful, please help us by being a part of helping us get the word out. That would really mean a lot to us if you could just share this with people that that can help get the book out and spreading around.
2 assignments today, guys. Leave an Amazon review and share the book with a friend. Some of the best ways that you can share this book with a friend are, of course, you can just tell them about the book, or just share one of the YouTube videos on each of the 10 words, whichever one you find most compelling. Share a link with a friend or a podcast. We have all 10 words. Well, we have 9 now. Almost all 10 words up on Ideas Have Consequences, so you can share the podcast. There's a book trailer, easily shareable as well. Or you can find the Disciple Nations Alliance on Instagram, Facebook, or on YouTube. And on Instagram and Facebook, you can share a post with a friend. So a lot of ways to get the word out. Once you're done with the book, I know I'll be doing this. You can just hand it to a friend and say, I'm done with this. It's your turn. So we'd highly encourage you guys to do that. Again, the book is out today on Amazon. It's also on Kindle. The audiobook will be out mid-December. And then that study guide course that we're talking about, that is not out yet. The videos for it are out, but the study guide itself will be out mid-December, so we still have about a month to go on that. Again, 10wordsbook.org is where you can go to find all of that. Any last thoughts, guys, before we wrap up this discussion?
Congratulations, God.
Well,
Thank you.
I'm super
Thank you.
grateful for you, Dwight, Luke, and just the entire team. Darrow was really the inspiration behind this project, and it is a team effort. I mean, this is God. I really feel like God gave the DNA. This is a project to do together, and so thank you. Thanks for all your help in this as well. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, congratulations, Dad. This is exciting. It's a big day, so we're happy to celebrate with you. For all of you listening, thank you for your time today. Thank you for being really supportive throughout this process as well. We always appreciate your time and attention on the podcast. Wherever else you follow the Disciple Nations Alliance, you guys are awesome, and we appreciate you so much for just following us along in this journey and being a part of discipling nations along with us. So this podcast is Ideas Have Consequences, and it is brought to you by the Disciple Nations Alliance. So thanks again for joining us today, and we'll catch you next week here on Ideas Have Consequences.